phone call later, go, all right. Anybody else has cool things they want to show off? I can do that.
Oh, really? Oh. You opened the door.
You said it.
He opened the door.
Sorry, because I have the wrong agenda in front of me here.
Quick, somebody hand them the right one. Get it over with.
For those of you, let's see, can I say this in this room without getting in trouble?
No.
Yes, Bob, who says no? When you get to be my age and you start losing stuff, right, Robert? It's like, who did that?
Are we
Thank you, Chief.
Of all the things I've lost in life, I miss my mind the most.
Yeah.
This is my committee, I do the jokes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right,
just warming up the crowd for you.
thank you. Leanne, would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Thank you, Chief.
Carlson?
Here.
Moore?
Here.
Frischling?
Here.
Westcott?
Here.
Ostrowski?
Here.
Thank you. Are there any individuals who wish to be heard? I have no specific announcements other than a quick reminder that tonight the commissioners will walk through the evaluations as provided by the liaisons from police and fire. We will review the work done. Thank you, Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Joseph. Nice work. But we're going to take a look primarily, I think, tonight at goals and expanding upon them. So if you want to start thinking about that. And then, of course, we will meet on Thursday, beginning at 4 o'clock with our chiefs. I'm not anticipating either one of those to be lengthy sessions, but as I think both Chief Finn and Chief Skibba know, this commission puts quite a serious value in setting achievable yet stretch goals to make you work for it a little bit. That's all I really have. Is there anybody here that wants to speak to the
If you
commission?
want both of us here 4 o'clock or different times because they're individual.
Good question.
You can go first, and then I would say we'll need about 2 hours for you, and then you can come in, we can wrap you up in about 5 minutes.
Every 2 hours, am I still employed?
I wouldn't be turning in any badges yet.
Okay.
Bob, why don't you come first, and then Marty, maybe 4:30? We have to be out of here by 6 on Thursday, because there is another room commitment, but it's not gonna be an issue. Everybody's available Thursday? Anybody want to speak to us? City attorney, mayor, anybody? All right. With that, let's move to item 3. Item 3, commissioners, is you and our liaison, all the person Nebo know, and those who are regular attendees, is a continuation of a dialogue that we have been having for some time as developments are occurring at the county level, either with the technical team, which meets as a group to advise the EMS oversight, and then EMS oversight reporting to the county's public safety committee. I'm not sure if those names right. Okay. Concerning the deployment of another full-time ambulance in the village of Clover. In essence, adding a full-time ambulance to the EMS system. That's a continuation of a conversation we've been having. Right now, we have 2 full-time ambulances that are deployed in the system. We periodically, or monthly, weekly, station 1 in the village of Clover for approximately 40 hours. There is movement that I'm going to ask both Chief Gemza and Chief Finn to report to you tonight on developments with the EMS Oversight Group, which Commissioner Ostrowski is our liaison to, concerning developments of a 3rd full-time ambulance to the system. And frankly, some concerns I think we as commissioners need to review and decide how we feel about it as we continue this conversation. So with that, Joseph, you want to lead it off? Bob, you want to lead it off? What's going on?
Give you, if you don't mind, indulge me with a little bit of a history lesson.
Yep.
On how we got here.
Okay.
And then Chief Gemza will follow me, or any technical questions, you could probably better prepared to answer.
Please continue.
So, in November 2015, approximately November 2015, we got into negotiations with the county for a new ambulance contract. At that time, we got into negotiations. Even before that, Chief Gubbs and myself approached Clover and said, our ambulances are 40 hours a week. We want to expand the service. You're happy with it? How can we improve it? We were told, we're happy with the service. We support Stevens Point 100%.
That was early in the contract negotiations for renewal.
That was right before contract negotiations for renewal.
Okay.
When we sat down with the county's bargaining team, they said that they were happy with the service. The only thing they wanted to talk about was money issues. And Mayor, you were here, so correct me if anything is wrong. And they did not want to change the system. The city received a 1.5% increase in the contract. That also provided for an additional guide. And we informed the county that we would not be given as much money back at the end of the contract, because whatever money's not spent, people that don't know, we give the money back. 2000, since I've been chief, we give them back just under $114,991.
Okay.
2014 was just under 50,000, and 2015 just a little over 65,000.
Okay, but the headline here is all of the anticipation leading up to contract renewal discussions, negotiations with the county. At no time was there any expression from any county officer or individual from the county involved that they were less than satisfied with the system or wanted to make any significant changes. Is that accurate?
That's true.
Okay, please continue.
Chairman Phil, how do you say his last name?
Eidsvold.
Thank you. Said he didn't care if we spent money, just don't come asking for more, because he knew, and that's relevant in the conversations that are coming up.
Okay.
So, we'll fast forward to 2016. July or August of 2016 was the first that we had heard at a presentation by the Clover Fire Department requesting an ambulance before we did the EMS oversight.
Okay.
Okay, in September of 2016, EMS oversight and public safety combined, and they said, send it back to the tech team. Now, up until this point, as a member of the tech team, or as the chief of the fire department, Chief Gemza as the EMS chief, no one has ever approached us from the county to how we can better the system when I made chief, they said, what are benchmarks? A benchmark for overall, what they wanted at 92, we're at 93.4.
This is for customer satisfaction.
Customer satisfaction.
That the county pays for.
The county
that-
pays for, okay?
Right.
Extent the first responders arrive in a timely manner, 94.6%.
Okay.
Extent in which an ambulance arrives in a timely manner, the benchmark was 91.6. Our ambulances are 93.1.
Okay.
So, came back to the tech team for discussion. And we had the discussion on October the 13th
Of 2016.
of 2016.
Okay.
And November the 10th, we had another tech team meeting,
Okay.
and the additional ambulance was not even on the agenda for, the additional ambulance was not on the agenda for the tech team.
Just we'll pause for a second. I want to remind all commissioners, I know you all know this, but the technical team is that group of technical professional advisors to the county's EMS oversight. These are experts in emergency medical services, physicians, other experts in providing ambulance. So it's their group of professionals they have assembled to advise them in an area. Please continue, Chief.
Okay, so on November the 17th, after no discussion was on the 10th of the tech team, the EMS oversight and public safety had a meeting, and there was a motion made by Commissioner Jankowski was passed for a minimum of 1 EMT and 1 paramedic to go out for proposals.
Manning a full-time ambulance.
Manning a full-time ambulance in the Clover area. And I have it here, and the reason I'm looking for the,
So up to 26 days ago, on November 10th, that was never brought up, never said, but on the 17th, they passed a...
correct.
In October, we had a discussion, Commissioner Estrella was there, about basically it was what level of service do we think if they were gonna add a third ambulance to? And then there was the timeline where Commissioner Jankowski was there, and he stated nothing could happen until before 2018. But that's what he told us. None of these things were voted on. We had a discussion. We said we can't change the level of service to the people in the southern area of the county or in the Plover without talking to them and finding out if they wanted a lesser service. I mean, so the thought process that the tech team would come back and say, we should have a service that's less than what we're currently providing for them. I mean, how would you feel if somebody just walked in and said, hey, you're gonna pay the same amount of money or maybe more for a lesser service?
So the tech team never brought up,
And that's what I was looking for. The reason it's relevant, that motion, the tech team never voted on that.
they never even brought it up in any of the meetings?
We know, in the first meeting, we did discuss additional ambulance.
In October.
In October.
Mhm.
The November 10th meeting, right, the one prior to
Right.
public safety, it was not on the agenda and was not discussed. So, I didn't know where this was at. Chief Gemza didn't know. So, we thought it was gonna be brought up later on in the tech team for further discussion, because nothing was decided in the tech team.
So they have no opinion one way or the other about it at this time, the tech team?
No, because there was
Officially.
some decisions made at the tech team on what level of services would not be accepted.
Like an EMT
Like
basic
an
service,
EMT
we
basic
didn't think
service
was
was
a smart.
not.
We went through
Right.
the discussion of
Alright, be-
intermediate, et cetera, and then decided what two categories could we get down to out of 5 possible.
All right, so where are we today?
So, during that meeting, that recommendation came out of the EM's office, didn't come from the tech team. So,
That's emergency
and
management.
emergency
Okay.
management for the county, that recommendation came from that. And there was some public discussion, and the reason, that's your short history lesson, is that, and that was going before public safety on December 21st. The public safety, they could vote to keep it at minimum or brought for proposals for 1 paramedic, 1 EMT. They can go to 2 paramedics, or they can pretty much do what they want. And whatever they decide, doesn't go before the county board, it goes then to the county's negotiating team. One of the things that was decided at the tech team was that this should be up and running January 1st of 2018.
18.
Right. And throughout this whole process, the RRU, the Rapid Response Unit, keeps getting brought up. And Chief Gemza tried to address some of the issues at oversight. I tried to address it at public safety. Even the mayor has brought it up, and we've always been not allowed to explain how this works. What they're proposing is that with 1 paramedic and 1 EMT, they want the RRU to respond to make up the 2nd paramedic. Well, the RRU is provided by the city of Stevens Point. It is run by a lieutenant, we take off the truck company and put on there. And
For
the-
clarification, if I could, the physical asset, the vehicle, is owned by the county. The staffing is provided as a convenience by the city, not through contract.
It's a city resource.
So the staffing is a city resource, yes.
Okay, Robert.
Okay, and the reason I think they think this is because when I became chief, the contract spells out that we get paid for 15 firefighter paramedics. After discussion with Chief Gemza, we now have 1 captain's salary in there and 3 lieutenants. And the only reason is because of all the administrative duties they do for the ambulance system. There was a way that we can track our personnel and the jobs they're doing. We have 2 captains that are system administrators, they're just 2. Okay, and then I've also asked Chief Gemza for the January meeting to come up, we will come back with a PowerPoint presentation and lay out everything in a more detailed fashion so everyone can know the differences, okay? And then each lieutenant, and actually 3 captains, because the EMS, Captain Moody's EMS liaison to Chief Gemza. And then each lieutenant has particular things they do. Now, this isn't called out in the contract. This is stuff that, which upsets me when they say the RRU is the county's employee. The city's not getting reimbursed, but this is what's best for the system. This is what's best for the citizens of the county. So for them to say that RU is paid for by them is very misleading. And I think if the, to tell the people in the county the second paramedic is coming out of Stevens Point, what they're asking us to do is take an officer off our truck company, provide a second paramedic. Right now, that RU for this year is respond, has been met the qualifications or criteria to respond 457 times. She responded 374, it's been canceled at about 50. Lieutenant not available 20, means that he was out doing fire inspections, could have been a fire run, a different run. And 4 times we didn't have the staff for it.
All right, let's see if we can dissect this a little bit, okay? It is my view, and let's have a conversation on this, but based on the gold standard for EMS in the state of Wisconsin is the paramedic system. If the county wishes to alter the delivery of emergency medical services in the county by changing the ambulance that is positioned full-time in Clover to 1 paramedic and 1 EMT, you are downgrading the medical emergency services provided to a portion of this county. Now, it won't change in the city of Stevens Point. City residents will continue to have 2 paramedics responding to all of their ambulance calls. But, let's be very clear about this. If the county's public safety committee votes to add a 3rd ambulance and fund it at a level which is 1 paramedic and 1 EMT, that is a downgrading of this county gold standard, which is held in very high esteem in the state of Wisconsin and throughout the Midwest. Now, it raises a couple of other issues that I've asked Chief Gemza, and I guess he has discussed this with the mayor and the city attorney, and I'm glad they're here this evening. I'm not convinced, from my previous work, that whose license are they going to operate under? The Stevens Point EMS is a paramedic license. Joseph, can you provide any light on that in your conversations with the state and with the city attorney, and I'll let the city attorney speak for himself? It's my understanding that if the state of Wisconsin looks at this and says, well, you currently have coverage on a 2 paramedic system in this area, why would we approve a new license to basically downgrade the emergency medical services that are available to Clover and other areas? Joseph, but I'm gonna let you do the technical on this.
Okay, DH 110 is the standard, it's the Bible for EMS in the state of Wisconsin. DH 110.50, it's under EMS provider staffing requirements. And to make a long story short, it says that if you were a paramedic system before 2000, and you have provided an area with a paramedic, and prior to 2000, every paramedic service had to be a 2 paramedic service, you cannot downgrade to a 1 paramedic system. It's very black and white there. You were all given that, and if there's any questions regarding what that is. So when that was proposed to the county, that how currently the village of Clover is being provided by a 2 paramedic ambulance service, how can you provide a 1 paramedic and an EMT basic when DH 110.50 clearly states that it's not, that you cannot do that. It says any service after that has to provide 2 paramedics, and it says that if you are a service, you have to provide 2 paramedics. To make a long story short, the city of Stevens Point Fire and Ambulance, we're a 2 paramedic system. We cannot go down to a 1 paramedic and an EMT basic in any way, shape, or form. The state, under our license, says, no, you were a 2 paramedic system prior to 2000. It's not acceptable. The state then says, if you are a new system coming in, you have to provide that same service. So that brought up the question, well, what's the proposal and what's the bidding process on this? Because we currently have contract for all of Portage County till 2018.
Right.
So that raised a lot of questions, because how do you bid on something you already have a signed, sealed contract on? They assured us that you could write a waiver form to the state if you were a new service, and the state could provide a 1 paramedic and an EMT under that. However, when we asked for clarification, I cannot receive that. I have not received that in the last 2 weeks. Am I correct, Chief? I've called the state a couple times and sent a couple of emails asking for clarification on how do we do that. So fast forward, we asked our city attorney to look at the language to see if we were missing something. Logan, do you have anything you'd like to
We'll
add?
let the city attorney speak for himself.
Well, Joe referred to DHS 110, and there is a general waiver provision right at the beginning of that. It's DHS 110.03. I'll just read it in its entirety. It says, "The department may waive any non-statutory requirement under this chapter upon written request if the department finds that strict enforcement of the requirement will create an unreasonable hardship for the emergency medical services provider or the public in meeting the emergency medical service needs of the provider's primary service area, and that waiver of the requirement will not adversely affect the health, safety, or welfare of patients or the general public." And then a little line about final decisions and administrative policies. So it's a really general provision that allows them to essentially waive any rule in here, but they'd have to meet those standards talking, and it's referring to, the public's interest in health, safety, and welfare. Typically, when you see those types of standards, they are somewhat difficult to meet. To say that decreasing a level of service in terms of going from 2 paramedics to 1, to argue that that doesn't adversely affect the public's health, safety, or welfare would be an uphill battle, I think. There's a lot of rules in here that relate to things that are a lot less core to the function than staffing levels and qualifications of the people doing the actual EMS work. You could picture some of the more administrative provisions in here being waived potentially, because you could make a good argument that this doesn't have an effect on health, safety, or welfare. But here, I have a hard time seeing the department agreeing with that.
Now, I feel like I missed an important part of the plot of this whole thing. Are they talking about their own paramedic and their own EMT outside of the Stevens Point Fire Department? Is that what they're talking about?
Mr. Mayor?
Maybe I can offer a little insight on that. As the chief said, when we went through negotiations for the new contract, which expires at the end of 2018, we brought up, are there any enhancements you want to make, any changes? And we were told, no. We suggested, we have that 40-hour-a-week roughly ambulance stationed in Clover. Do you want to increase the length of time? Things like that. The answer was no to all of that. So the negotiations were relatively simple. It came down to a matter of funding. At that time, as the chief said, we were told by the county negotiation team, you have, we can afford 1.5%, even though the wages were going up higher than that. That's all we can afford. The county cannot afford anymore. There just wasn't any way to do that. And then less than a year later, we're now hearing that the county wants to enhance the system, which is great. Any way we can improve the system is a good thing, especially people in the southern part of the county in those corners. Service response time is slower because it's further away. It's more rural, so it's less densely populated as well. But so now we're told that we want to enhance the system and that we're going to pay more for it. Contradictory to what was said at the contract renewal. So the emergency management oversight and public safety committees, as well as the emergency management department, where there's been a fair amount of turnover already, started talking about how can we increase response times. And I want to point out too that the response times were brought up, and the city service meets those standards that are set by the county. The city does not set those response time standards, the county does. The county, we meet them over 93% of the time. There was no change in the response time goals from the county either. But any improvement we can make, great. So at that time, there was one point I stood up at the meeting and I said the city stands ready to, serve the county in the best way we can. So if it means we need to staff an ambulance in Clover 24/7, let's talk about doing that. 2 paramedics. Somewhere in the mix, there was a discussion, contrary, I believe, to what the tech team recommended. The tech team, the experts that do this, I am clearly not an expert in EMS, so I would rely on the tech team as well. But contrary to what the tech team evaluation was, chose to put it out for proposals between the Village of Clover and the city to provide that service. Who can get the biggest bang for the buck? Makes sense, right? Plover doesn't have a 24/7 facility right now. So it's my understanding that Plover is working on upgrading their facility to accommodate sleeping and cooking and things like that, making it a 24/7 operation. Whether that would be at the disposal of the city to serve those residents of Plover, I don't know yet. But at some point, it was discussed that at a minimum, we should allow the proposals to come in at 1 EMT, 1 paramedic, which is less than what we have now. So basically what the county is proposing is looking at enhancing the system, charging more for it, but then the people that are served by that third ambulance are actually getting less service. So I've got a nephew that lives in the southern part of the county. The service is going to be reduced, but the cost is going to go up. For people that are served in the city and north, for the most part, we're going to be paying more for the same service because the county tax levy is what's going to increase. So why the county is considering a 1 paramedic, 1 EMT service is beyond me. If you're really looking to improve the service in the county, you wouldn't go backwards. And that's what I'm having a hard time understanding. The other thing that's concerning me is there's no consideration at county board. They said it in the meetings that this would not go to county board with the exception of the final contract, whatever that is, for approval. So it seems to me that the representatives on the county board from those areas in the southern part of the county may not even be aware that they're being considered for a reduction in service.
Well, beyond, let me dovetail on that. You've made a really good point. Not only will the elected representatives of that part of the state, part of the county, but you have a large population that probably is totally oblivious to the fact that the county is getting ready to downgrade their ambulance service.
Yeah. Now, I also, at one point in one of the meetings, Matt Dykstra, when he was still here, did some overlays of response times. And while I'm unfamiliar with the intricacies of how those response times are calculated, and GIS was involved and they showed maps with different colors on them. So they showed the current system, which is the Station 1, Station 2, and Amherst, and this is the response time area. And there were different colors showing 4 minute and less, 8 minute and less, 20 and 30, 15, and so on, different colors. Then they showed if we station the ambulance in Almond, for example, this would be the response time. Not having any of the current coverage displayed on that map. Then they showed another location, I think it was 54 and 39 or 54 and J. And this is what the response time would be. Again, not showing that with the existing coverage. And then the one ambulance that they want to station in Plover, they put it in Plover and overlaid the current coverage with the exception of the 40 hours a week that we already spend in Plover and showed all of these significant increases in response times. What I asked for 4 times was, let me see the overlay of current coverage, Station 1, Station 2, Amherst, and 40 hours in Plover, and those other possible locations. If we really want to increase the response times to the entire county, that should show that. Today, I received some of those maps, and I had asked for them at least 2 months ago. So I'm still in the process of analyzing that, but it would seem to me that since we already have Stevens Point, Whiting, Park Ridge, Plover, the metro area covered with response times within the county goals that the county sets, adding another ambulance to that area isn't going to provide your biggest bang for the buck. So if you really want to increase those response times, and at the cost of $300,000, $400,000, we don't know what it's going to cost yet, but we can assume that it's somewhere in the $300,000 range or above. You would station that ambulance somewhere outside the metropolitan area that's already being covered adequately to increase response times. That's not being considered. And the average citizen and the county board don't have a say in that. At
My
this
guess,
point.
Michael, is they're not aware of it.
I don't want to assume anything, but has anybody asked why they want to decrease?
We brought things up at the meetings, and as the chief said, with the waiver, I find it hard to believe that there is a hardship that's being created in a well-functioning system that's been recognized as a leader in the field.
Well, you will never prove a hardship, and Joseph will let you address that in a minute, but let's address.
But when we ask questions very directly like that, they're not answered substantively.
You know,
Well, my answer to you would be, one discussion at a tech team, the discussion of the two systems was talked about in the sense of what would we least want. But at no other meeting that I was in attendance was there a justification given. The suspicion was money, was a suspicion.
That's
But
why
at no point did anybody say, why do we wanna do this? So
It's cheaper
I was
to have
left
one
believing
EMT
it had to do with
than
money.
one paramedic.
Sure, that's what would be common sense, that's why I said I didn't wanna assume
But
anything,
there
but.
never was any formal discussion of that.
But,
Let me look
but we
back
need to
to
be
that.
clear that the state differentiates a 2 paramedic ambulance and a 1 paramedic ambulance. So in other words, 2 paramedic ambulance can do more advanced skills than a 1 paramedic ambulance, because they recognize the importance of having 2 paramedics and the ability to do that at their training as opposed to an EMT basic and a paramedic. Now, you may argue or like to make the argument that percentage-wise that doesn't happen very often, right? I mean, sure, I'm not gonna lie to you, not every ambulance call is a life-threatening ambulance call. But when that does happen, you need it. And at the end of the day, that's what we want from our service. People in the village of Rochelle get the same exact paramedics that you do if you live across the street from the YMCA. That is something in systems around the state you don't get. In other words, you get that same qualified set of 2 paramedics. If you are having chest pain, you will get 2 paramedics and a rapid response unit. And let's just clarify something. That is 3 paramedics as opposed to 1 paramedic and an EMT basic.
So, getting back to what I was wondering, so are they gonna do this outside of
That's
the
not
Stevens
my answer.
Point Police Department and suddenly Plover Ambulance Service? Is that what this is, or?
There is a possibility of that. That hasn't been determined yet. They're gonna
Okay.
put it out for proposals, of which, of course, we will submit a proposal. We will submit based on the 2 paramedic system, because
Right.
that's the
Let
right
me
thing
just
to do
clarify-
regardless
let
of
me
what
just
the law
clarify-
says.
Let me clarify what the mayor said, and this is eventually where we're gonna go. We are a licensed system for 2 paramedics. Now, unless the city attorney disagrees with me, but Logan remembers, although I'm not an attorney, I love to issue legal opinions all the time. Remember those days, right? I do not see any way under DHS 111050 whatever, you are a licensed system for 2 paramedics. You have to operate a 2 paramedic system. And you are never, in my view, going to be able to prove that you have a hardship in a part of this county when, as the mayor points out, and the chiefs, we're blowing by all of the satisfaction requirements and goals. You are delivering a service with a very high reputation. And now you're going to take and downgrade for certain citizens of this county to a paramedic EMT. That is not an upgrade in EMS network in Portage County. That is a downgrade. Now, they can pretend at the county level, they can petition for all this, and I don't believe for 1 second when Madison says, well, right now you have paramedic coverage, why would you want to change that? Commissioner Moore, you've been sitting on a question before I keep going here.
Yeah. I really want to know where all this started from. I mean, if the tech team did not make a recommendation to the county EMS board that this needs to happen, then how did they get this
How do you get this far?
idea in their head and it come to an actual motion at a committee to do this?
Was there an incident? That's what I was wondering.
In
Some
July,
knee-jerk reaction?
I believe, the village of Plover went in front of the EMS oversight board and said, we would like an ambulance.
Oh.
And so that is where I believe that it really started. Up until that point, there was no discussion at the tech team. Am I correct, chief?
To address what you just said, and that was in my notes, the tech team was never approached with any concerns.
So they've never
If,
made a
if
recommendation.
it was, if this started the tech team, Chief Gemza and myself, we had different ideas how we can make the third ambulance work at minimal cost. We didn't have all the logistics worked out, but we started working there. We were never asked. And that's an important thing to note, that
You know,
myself is the chief for Stevens Point Fire Department, him, the service director, who works countless hours, and I can't praise him enough for what he does, was never asked his opinion, a member of the tech team. This, if they had started there, I don't think we would have got to the point we're at. I really don't.
They didn't want your
Well,
opinion.
no,
then.
please-
You're-
What you have to
I can't
understand
say- I
is-
can't say that, okay?
Right.
But could I just correct a couple of things real quick, that President Westcott said that the city would be all right. That's not totally true. Because if both our ambulances out, that's the third ambulance into the city,
Mhm.
and you're gonna have one and one. So to say the city will always have two paramedics responding, we have three ambulances out all the time. That ambulance would respond to the city, and if we don't have a truck company to send on an ambulance assist, people in the city will not be getting two paramedics, they'll be getting one and one. Not on a regular basis, but that could happen.
The occasion, yeah.
The occasion can happen.
But let's not lose sight of the fact, you know, it's important, I
This
want
is
you back
run
on
away.
You know, we need to drill down here, but keep in mind, what Chief Hinn and Chief Gems are offering is a licensed two paramedic system, and the proposal is the county is weighing for one paramedic, an EMT. And there's a lot of other things I want to get at here tonight, and you're right, there are always gonna be specific instances where these things could occur. But they would place a full-time ambulance in Clover that has an EMT on it, is that correct, Robert?
Correct.
That's what they're,
And
you
this,
know, go
what I
ahead.
talked to you about is how they're trying to sell this, is the RRU, the officer from the Stevens Point Fire Department is gonna be that second paramedic. The RRU is not a county asset, and every meeting I've been to, and it gets very frustrating that they keep proposing that it's a county asset, and it's gonna, they're telling the people, this is gonna respond and be the second paramedic. The only time that RRU goes out when it meets the qualifications is Chief Gems said, it's adding the third paramedic. We think it's important enough to take an officer off the truck, to have three paramedics on the scene, to assist the medics on the scene and provide better coverage to people in the county. And they're selling it as, well, Stevens Point's gonna send the second paramedic.
Don't worry
And
about
don't worry
it.
about
Yeah,
it.
right.
And that's what, I don't, it's not being stressed enough, this is a city of Stevens Point Fire Department asset that the county, we provide to the county. And it's being sold as, well, they're just gonna go, and that's not true.
Chief, and if you disagree with me, I want you to tell me, but I would argue that decision on whether or not the RRU continues to respond will be a decision ultimately for the Police and Fire Commission. Whether or not you as commissioners wish to make some staffing directions, or how we wish to staff, the contract says X number of paramedics. A couple of things I'd like to see. Is there anything else we really need to touch on before I offer some ideas?
Well,
I
it
have-
says two,
I have what the
Two
contract
ambulances.
says. The contract says,
Go ahead.
paramedic service will be primary level of care for two staff units.
Yeah.
Okay, 7 days a week, 24 hours.
And that expires January 1st, 2018.
December
19.
31st.
In 19.
December 31st of 2018.
So we're in a
Well,
contract
in
right now.
essence,
We just
and the
started.
contract says they pay for 15. In essence,
15
Well, and that
paramedics.
contract
in
currently
essence,
requires
so
us
we have
to be stationed in
39,
Clover for 40 hours a week.
Okay. All right.
we have 39 paramedics, okay? But the RRU is addressed in the county contract,
Right.
okay?
I would just throw in 2 cents too, if you're going to make a proposal for this new system that they're developing or whatever, that you make that proposal the way you want it, the way the state statute says it should be, and do not lower from our standards, and your standards, I should say.
Well, I want,
And
I wanna
stand proud.
make it perfectly clear that we're not against the third ambulance,
Mhm.
okay? What we want to do is provide the best service to the people of the city and the county for the most efficient way. And the way it is set up right now with one EMT and one it's not a level playing field, let's be honest.
Mhm.
I mean, everyone in here knows how to, I mean, we can come up with a proposal, but there's no way we can compete with a lesser service. And I don't think that's fair to the people of the county.
Then we have to educate somehow, is that what you're saying?
That
I think people need to be aware of what's going
And I
on
think it
somehow,
has to be
some
really
way.
So that-
stressed that RRU is being portrayed, and, I mean, they're going out to towns meetings, okay, township meetings, and explaining this, and the
Wrong.
service director isn't invited to the meetings.
Myself and John Porey from Amherst were not invited to go to the meeting to answer any technical operational questions regarding the paramedic service that we provide for them.
And every time we try to say something in a public meeting, at one point, they told Chief Demby he was out of order,
Mm.
okay? And that's why.
Which does happen, I mean, let's be honest.
Never would be.
In conclusion, one thing I would like to say is that, you know, this may go through with a lesser service before anybody knows what's happening.
Yes.
So it's important that you contact your county board supervisors and request that they get some oversight on that. This is their job to do as well. And they've already blew by the tech team, they've already blew by.
Sounds to me like they ignored the tech team.
That's
Sorry.
kind of what I meant.
All
But,
right.
you know, the people who are gonna be served by this service are the ones that are going to be affected. So if this goes into place with a one paramedic, one EMT service, they won't know it. You can't tell who's the paramedic and who's the EMT when the ambulance shows up. But when it comes time to decompressing a lung, you will know who can't do it and who can.
They're gonna be paying for HBO and Cinemax, but only getting basic cable.
Right.
basic, You know,
That's a good way to put it.
I have
feel free to use
Right now,
that.
they're getting, right now they're getting an Academy Award winning movie, right now. is the
Joseph,
service.
you had a question?
fiscally, what kind of money are we talking about?
We don't know if these is gonna be proposals, but we can assume it's gonna be somewhere in the $300,000 to $400,000 minimum, on up to about $600,000 or $700,000, depending on what sort of staffing levels are needed, what sort of assets, and what sort of facility, 24/7 facility is going to be
Move it
needed.
from, I'm not saying the additional ambulance, but from a paramedic to an EMT.
Oh, dollar-wise, salary?
Wages.
Not much.
I don't know.
I know
Yeah,
for us, it's about 94,000 for a new guy. to
Oh,
start.
for that, ESCI did a study and they found that through retention and all that, because what happens is when you take a career paramedic and put them into a fire department, your retention level is 30 years on that person, so you don't lose that knowledge. When you take somebody out of the private sector or into the lower systems or aren't under the protective services, they start turning over. So basically what you have is, you may say, well, it's only gonna cost us $19 an hour, but your turnover in training becomes the never-ending cycle of the money pit.
Because it seems to me that everybody's in agreement with getting the additional ambulance. It's whether it's an EMT or paramedic, unless I'm totally missing something.
And the location.
Okay.
We haven't
If
determined the location
If
yet.
approached by the tech team or by, to say that, I don't know if that's a true statement, Joe, and I can't tell you that. Okay, I'm not saying that a third ambulance isn't needed. I'm not sure that we can't provide the exact same level of care with minimal cost of moving the ambulance that we have now. That was never looked at by the technical people. That was never an option. Does this system work? This came from the county board down instead of the tech team up.
And then another question I have
Go ahead,
quickly
Joseph. Go ahead,
is,
go ahead.
why don't, instead of us contacting the county people, county board supervisors, why don't we have Logan draft something that's legal, something that shows this and saying, here's what happened, here's a little of the history, and here's why it can't happen.
But
And then send that to all the county people that need to get it.
Chief? Or you looking
no,
at
I
your?
don't know.
I would caution you on
I don't
directing
know.
Logan to do that, because this isn't a city decision. The county makes the decision. We can provide
But
an
we can
opinion,
provide
but
information.
we can provide that information, but really it's up to the emergency management department and the county's legal counsel to make that
So then
determination.
we can't do anything.
County's legal department, court counsel, I don't think ever weighed in on this. This is an opinion from employees in the emergency management office. That's all it is.
We have all sorts of
So-
options, Joseph. We have all sorts of options.
What-
So the EMS
Go ahead,
The
Jerry.
people that work for EMS are the ones that are pushing this at the county level? Is that where is
Well,
this
the
being
people that
pushed?
started,
Emergency
the people
management.
that started all of this
Is it the committee or is it the people in
are
that
no
office?
longer employed there.
So
There's been
then-
such a, I don't know where it started. All I
Okay,
know is
but
the public meeting.
somebody's pushing it. Who's pushing it?
I don't know.
That's a hard.
That would be something you'd have to ask them. I can tell you that people that have been in favor of it, Don Jankowski made the motion
Yes, I
to do a
understand
minimum of paramedic EMT.
In July, the
I-
Village of Plover presented to the Oversight Board and asked for an ambulance.
that. Okay, I guess my point is this.
Full-time.
A full-time
This thing
ambulance.
still has legs. Somebody is agreeing with it that is sadly misinformed or has an agenda that they are driving. And we have a say to a minor extent, but there needs to be some oversight from the county to discuss that with these people, whoever is driving it.
I'm going to suggest this. There are, in my view, and I think the commission, Robert, you're the liaison here. You want to add anything before I start? offering
Yeah,
some
I was
ideas
just gonna say, I think first of all, in fairness, they let us still in the game in the fact that they said a minimum of 1 and 1. It wasn't this or else. So we could bid, we could go after, it. But in all honesty, we're bidding
Against
gold,
ourselves.
and somebody else is bidding, could come in at silver. And let's face it, the way the county operates, you know what's gonna happen.
That was
Sec-
discussed
Yeah.
ad nauseum at the EMS
Right.
Board. There was
And-
concern about that.
Yeah, and so that is a big concern of mine. Second of all is, this came out of nowhere, and I firmly believe that if it gets out to the public, the average citizen is not gonna want ambulance number 6 showing up at their house and realizing they can't do a chest help because it doesn't have the right people on it. But had ambulance number 2 or 5 showed up, they could have done it. That's gonna be an impossible sell to the public, absolutely impossible. As the mayor, as Gary indicated earlier, the average person thinks the two people showing up on the ambulance can do anything that's necessary. This would fracture the system that right now we can give them everything. So, and to answer your question, I've been attending these meetings and I don't know where this came from. Some of the decisions that came across as voted on were consensus talked about. There was no vote ever, and yet I was handed a sheet of paper saying, we voted on it.
Go ahead,
And
Commissioner.
just to be very clear, we have all stated that we're not against a third ambulance.
No.
None of us are. This whole committee, I believe, has
Has
made that statement.
We'd have to supply it.
All right, let me see if we can put this into some packages here, okay? I think the Police and Fire Commission throughout the years has a very solid record of supporting solid public policy that improves the delivery of emergency medical services. We have time in and time again supported improvements that are good public policy for the people of Portage County. But we have said before that this is a system that requires good public policy and not politics. I, for one, would like the commission, and I checked with the city attorney, to go on record favoring the county move forward with the third ambulance, only with the provision that it's staffed by 2 full-time paramedics, which will continue to ensure and actually will improve paramedic coverage to all residents of Portage County, not just a select few. And they're going to have to realize that these are not decisions that should be made in the political arena, but listen to your tech team, listen to your professional advisors who are counseling the ambulance service on the best way forward to save lives and to reduce pain and suffering in Portage County. That was the intent of this system when it was established some time ago, when Joe was a young, raw recruit and one of our first paramedics.
And still out of order.
We need to be mindful of the fact that this system, the beauty of it is a county-wide network. that, as Chief Finn frequently reminds me, is more than paramedics. It's well-trained first responders. It's a system that is saving lives every day. And I think this commission, and I would so move, that we go on record in the strongest terms, encouraging the appropriate county officials to, for scientific and valid data, upgrade the system by adding a third full-time paramedic ambulance. And then I'll have some other thoughts. Second by Commissioner Moore.
2 paramedic ambulances.
I'm sorry, did I just say one? All right, well, I'm good.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I think when you call 911, you want the best available people responding, while
Right.
your loved one's gasping their last gasp on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And to get cheap on this is the wrong place to get cheap on. So I wholeheartedly agree with that
All
motion
right.
that's out there.
Any further discussion on that motion? If not, commissioners, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, the commission is formally on record for our chief and assistant chief to present with our stance, because it is our belief that the public is best served by having 2 full-time paramedics. The next issue that I think I'm going to ask, and I don't know that we need to have a motion, but I certainly have heard from our chiefs over the last few months, there is so much that Chief Finn and Chief Gemza do in direct support of the paramedic network that may not even be recognized or acknowledged by the county. And I think we've only touched the surface here today. I think the RRU is a good example. And if I were a county official, I would not automatically presume that the RRU
We got another RRU.
is going to continue if you go down this path. I hear what you're saying, Chief, and you're right. The vehicle is in the contract. But why don't you, one of you just spend a moment and give me just a quick brush stroke? I'm going to ask you to work with your team, Chief Finn, and in January, I want to report on every single thing, from training to recertification to whatever else, staffing additional ambulances into these areas that we are doing, and we aren't really charging the county for.
That's January 3rd meeting?
Yes. All right. Because, Commissioner?
I just have a question about the contract with the RRU.
Mm-hmm.
The RRU is just a box with wheels on it that the county provides.
They have a vehicle. The
It's a
vehicle's
car.
there.
It's a-
Correct.
Right.
I totally understand that.
Right.
Is there anything in our contract with the county that says a paramedic has to be one driving that RRU?
The only thing it states in the contract, do you have it or did you pull it out? sir? I got it here.
There you
Okay.
go.
It just says, and I'll read verbatim. The service providers and the board tech team will, with final approval from the board, EMS oversight, will continue operating guidelines and staffing patterns to ensure the continued effective and efficient use of the rapid response unit. The parties agree that current practices in the field of emergency medicine, response, and transport dictate proper role and type of response for the vehicle, and that this vehicle will be integrated into the Portage County EMS system. That
And with
is,
the motion that was made by the county board, none of their recommendations came from the tech team and how to integrate it into the system. They just are telling us that you won't supply the second paramedic with the RRU.
the concern from the medical director was that there's certain things like rapid sequence intubation that the state says only 2 paramedics can do. So how are we going to provide that in that southern thing? They said, well, we will send the RRU with a paramedic, and then you become a 2 paramedic thing if that ever happened. That was the first time Chief Finn and myself had ever been approached on that change of how we would operate.
Sounded like it just came off somebody's head.
It was decided that they could meet a criteria. So as we went back and looked at the contract, it's like, well, service providers and the board tech team. Commissioner Ostrowski, you've been to the tech team, was the response to the rapid, was that?
Never once.
So
No.
in 2 different public meetings, it's been stated to people who make decisions that this is kind of like a slam dunk. The county has never approached us or called us and said, can we just discuss the role of the RRU so that we can get a clear picture if we're looking at this? Again, not off the board, it's just the first time I hear about this, I don't want to be in a public meeting and asked to have to defend our policy and our procedures for the rapid response unit. So it was a little, we were all taken aback at that.
All right,
at
but the
that point.
commission would like, and Robert, if you need a little bit more time, let me know. But we certainly would like an accounting of what we're going to, at this point, and I don't know if this is the best term, but let's call it, there are clearly a tremendous volume of in-kind services that Stevens Point Fire is providing to support the Portage County EMS service. The commission would like a full accounting of what all those services are. And I would also like an assessment of the RRU. I do not believe that is an automatic going to be running all the time to certain parts of this county to augment a second or third.
You are correct, sir, because what happens in the city is that the city, the engine company responds.
Right.
To the calls at the RRU. So the RRU primarily only responds to the county.
Right.
If the same criteria are met, the engine company goes out, to assist the paramedics in that aspect. So the RRU is truly, how we send out for the.
I think we'll be very clear, it's not a given that it's going to be doing this. So we're looking for that full assessment. The mayor made up a couple of, he made a few interesting points. It's been a long day, I'll be telling you. I'm also interested in the finances of this. If indeed it is true, Joseph, that the county taxpayers, of which we are county taxpayers, what are we, about 32% of the county levy? You know, if indeed a large sector of this county population will be paying more for less of a service, I'd like to know what those numbers are. Maybe that's something we could ask the comptroller to study. I would also encourage the county, by going to 2 paramedics, that allows the city of Stevens Point to basically offer a credible professional bid on the future. That was the intent of my motion. Because under the license, that's the only way we're going to do it. But if city taxpayers are going to be paying more, and and some folks in parts of the southern part of the county are going to pay, if what the mayor says is accurate, more for less of a service, who in the right mind makes that investment? All right, the third thing I would like, and let me work with Logan, and you gave me this idea, we're going to have Logan and Joseph, I want you to continue to work with the state through your chief and stay after the state for the definitive ruling on this DHS rule. I don't see any way, because the state of Wisconsin loved this system up here. I can't imagine they're going to say, yeah, let's make that change. That's better for some people.
Shoot ourselves in the foot.
Well, in fact, it's a partial fracture of the system.
Well, no, you are fracturing the system,
Yeah.
which every strategic plan has said, do not fracture the system.
The only way I could possibly think they backdoor that is with the RRU, you know, in their pitch to the state saying that. I think that's the way they circumvent
See,
it
but,
somehow.
you know,
Go ahead.
this is where it's short-sighted on that part, is that's one vehicle.
Right.
If that vehicle, for some reason, is out of commission, what are you gonna do?
Or whatever, yeah.
Or
Well,
if it's
what are they
ready
gonna
to
do
go.
when they're offline training, or, you know?
Well,
right.
if the intent is to make a faster response to the southern portion of the county,
But that's
then,
not
and
their
you can't
intent.
perform those life-saving skills that 2 paramedics can until that other person gets there.
Which might be coming from the northern part of the
Right,
state.
so again,
Right, it makes
the
no sense.
logic doesn't seem to work. And at the end of the day, we're open to discussion, however, we haven't been invited to any discussion.
My guess, and I learned a long time ago never to do this with good reporters in the room, but my guess, without having the numbers and crunching this, is we can provide the service for less than what the county's getting ready to pay for it. Now, I don't expect anybody to agree with me on that, because I'm crunching
Not
the
going
numbers.
there.
But we're up and running, and we have to keep in mind, and we're gonna get this report next month, all of the training and ancillary and in-kind, and stocking of drugs and the training, and these are expensive services.
The outlay, yeah.
Exactly, all right, so you got clear in your homework assignments?
But it's also the relationship over the years that Chief Gems has built up with these vendors and all the lieutenants and captains that work with them.
That's a good
That
point.
saves
That's
the
a
money.
good point.
That goes unnoticed. If the county wants us to provide just what's in the contract, then all these extra duties, I guess the police and fire commission just say,
And then,
They're treating us like a contract employee, and I always thought we had a partnership.
right,
But it's very evident that they want to
this
treat
is
us.
business. yeah.
Right, this is business. Well, if business is business, then
Now, this is political.
So,
Well, this is
to
a
take-
horrible business decision.
Yeah, I know.
I'll tell you that
So,
right
so
now.
just what you said, those are the things that you hear about January
yes,
3rd.
we'll have a presentation. We have, like, what's suggested, the meeting at the firehouse, we'll put a PowerPoint presentation.
Perfect. All right. So you've got, we're looking for all the things we do are in kind, all the things we do to support this system on a daily basis. We're gonna continue to follow up with the state of Wisconsin on this licensing issue, and this commission is strongly on record favoring, no, requiring that we do not fracture this system. It is clearly the gold standard in Wisconsin, and I spent time in Madison. And go to a two-paramedic system. And we're also gonna, I will work with Corey to see if we can get some numbers on this, and I'll work with our chiefs. At some point in the time, I'll be interested to see how close I am on estimating prices on this, which I've done before. All right, any other questions? We have a motion that's been passed. I think we're very clear what we expect from the county. I do not believe they're not gonna be able to operate under our license.
No.
Okay. Let's be very clear. I mean, maybe we should have said that to start with.
Well, I think that's important, Gary, to mention the fact that the medical officer herself was not in favor of this and said the same exact thing.
They can't
So they
operate
still
under our
go
license.
forward.
And
So
yet-
still
and
in
yet-
advance.
And yet nobody from the other side brought up.
You know,
how
Robert,
they
that's a
covered
really
it.
good point. Here you have a medical director who's opposed to this.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? Stay tuned.
Sure.
Oh, good grief. All right, let's see, where are we here? Fire chief's report. Well,
Long ways.
it's been a while since we've heard from Chief Finn, so,
Yeah.
Robert, you're up with your report. Thank you for your work here tonight. You too, Joseph.
You were a little while ago.
No, it does happen.
I just wanted to
It's been-
say that.
it's
Let me,
been
one more comment parenthetically, for
Just
you and for Bob. What you now have is the full support and backing of this commission.
Mhm.
When you're in these meetings, you can say, my commission said this. They expect this to happen. You have the full authority of this optional powers, police and fire commission.
If you didn't get that before.
Yeah, all right. Go ahead, chief. Thank you, Jerry.
Just a little aside.
I know, you're right.
As you can see, the number one item is, I hate to announce it, but Chief Davis has a tentative retirement date.
Denied.
It's not gonna work, I tell you.
You have to.
It's only
So
tentative.
you know that, there is a, I looked under, after 6213 and what the process was for Assistant Chief, I did this quote.
Yeah.
But I opened it up for the captain to apply, and I amended two items, three did apply for the position, and then conducting interviews tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Good.
Knowing that this retirement was coming, that will allow us to align our shifts with promotions, because we just ran a captain and a test promotion, which was posted a week ago. We can align our shifts up with the anticipation of these promotions. That way we save on overtime and moving guys around and worried about vacation coverage throughout the year.
When is your vacation schedule?
It's supposed to come out December 1st. I have a side letter with the union, they have it December 8th, because with the promotional process, acting lieutenant always came from seniority. Now they come from the lieutenant's list, or the captain's list. So the top three on the lieutenant's list are no longer, can't be in the same shifts. They're the number one acting, then it goes down to seniority.
Chief, the promotion list, is it strictly from in-house?
Yes. For the lieutenants and captains, yes.
Yeah, for captains to assistant chief.
Right now, the process is to interview the captains, and I put in there, if no one applies or no qualified candidates, I can adjust the process. There's no lieutenants, there's no the outside. I don't anticipate that. If, it's gonna be a tough decision what it is now, if all three captains put in, and we get some real good officers.
How many years did Assistant Chief Davis have with us?
31 and a half, I believe, or 32, it's either 32 or 31 and a half, long time.
They were still using horses when he's there.
I figured
They were in the
that, I figured
south
that
side
vehicle
fire
he
department.
drives
They're in the
around.
south side
is
fire
first
All right.
I was in Boston and went to the fire museum,
Well,
and piece of equipment that was in the museum was an open cab American La France. He had a double clutch. I told my daughter, I learned, that's my first fire truck I
There you
ever
go.
learned how to drive. Now it's in the museum. That's how
Yeah.
long I had.
Next, we'll see you down there.
What else do you have in your report, Robert, that you want us to be aware of?
Our SCBA compressor, had a little fire. And, it is getting, it caught on fire.
What a good place to.
What a good place for a
Yeah,
fire, right?
Right.
Good
But
planning.
luckily, it wasn't much excessive replacement of the motor, so that went well.
Where the heck did you get the motor from?
We can't tell you.
Yeah. It's one of his contacts that he's built up.
Somebody, it's a guy I know.
You guys know the NEC?
Okay, go on, Robert, we need
And
to
you
move
can
on
see,
here.
we've been pretty busy with fire calls,
Yep.
local fires. I, talked to, I can't remember her name, the UWSP, they have a class for women, and I talked to the
Karina.
building department. No, it wasn't
What's
Karina.
Karina?
Her last name's Deal, D-O-T-H-E-O, I thought it was. For projects, it's very concerning to us as a fire department and not a building department that the last three fires we've had in college housing had no working smoke detectors, they were disconnected. So after the first of the year, as much pub ed as we do with the free smoke detector giveaways, we're gonna try to get into the college. And tragedy is gonna happen eventually. Hopefully, I mean, I don't wanna be Oakland, California, but I mean,
Right.
this is,
That's required by code, right?
yes.
I was gonna say,
Well, not
are
everybody-
smoke
not-
detectors required
Yes,
for
they are.
students?
They are required.
For in Fresno.
But not every place that college students are living is registered as college housing.
Okay,
So it's something the building department and the fire department will work in conjunction with to try, and UWSP to try to educate, because it was like after the fire that we had at Torn Road in the trailer park. We went through there and knocked on doors, because the fire that was in the trailer had no smoke detectors. I think we installed 30 smoke detectors in that trailer park. And
Yeah.
the guys went visually into the house, wasn't people saying, yeah, give me one. Where we installed them, 30 trailers did not have proper and operating smoke detectors. In this day and age, that just can't happen.
no loss of life in any of these
No,
cases?
no.
was it?
So, one of my goals would be at my evaluation is the smoke detectors. It's really starting to be bothersome, especially with the college housing we have in town.
Do you guys go to the, can't really name it, landlord association, talk to them too? Not just the college students, the renters, but the guys who actually rent the property?
We can do inspection of some of them, we don't, we can't get
I
the
mean,
units, it's educating the people, and we will get to the landlord.
I mean, their meeting where
Right,
yeah.
they all get together and go
Yes.
talk to them.
Yeah.
Does somebody
Good
from
idea.
the PD attend
Park-
those
Park
meetings,
Owners
don't they?
Association.
Yes.
We do.
We delivered 100, and this is important, 166 coats for kids.
So
Local 484 charity raised money, it was $35 per coat. And they went out, and again, like smoke detectors, no kids should have to walk through the winter being cold. They did it discreetly, so kids wouldn't be embarrassed. I think they should be applauded for their efforts.
Oh, yeah.
Coats on the kids.
Absolutely.
Other than that, I have nothing.
Oh,
You have nothing.
you're all welcome to come to, Fleet Farm on Saturday.
Oh, for
For
the
no,
challenge?
Fleet Farm.
Don't,
We would like to see it.
don't be going to
Police
Trigger.
department.
No, do not go to Trigger.
Trigger, Cops, Fleet Farm, the fire
Oh,
department.
come on, you guys win the softball game, they're
I
gonna
will,
win the salvation.
I will let you hold the booth. I will. But feel free to, feel
All right,
free
trying to keep us focused
In your
here.
packet, I believe, I don't know if it went out, if not, there was a letter from Alderperson Ray McComb and Alderperson David Shore. Did you guys receive it in your packet?
I don't have.
No, I
that.
didn't get one.
I thought it went out in the packet.
I didn't get one.
You're the key.
No, that's my bad. It's been kind of busy and doesn't. So. And then, is there anything in your report, Jeff?
You
I'm-
get
I'm-
my
I report-
reviews too,
Oh,
Mary?
The,
Can I just see one?
No.
no. We did submit for the AFG grant,
both in the
for
dark.
6
Thank you.
Lucas
give
devices,
you
which
another
are
one
automatic
tomorrow,
CPR
It's
devices.
okay, I don't need it.
That we submitted for that. That would be about $116,000 grant from the AFG that we wrote in hopes to be put on each ambulance and the rapid response
And this
unit.
will be on your list next month, of all the work that went in behind the scenes
For
to
that.
secure this grant.
Okay.
Because that is a major, significant upgrade.
It would be, and we're we're cautiously optimistic on our chances for it.
Anything on ISO, Chief?
No.
Okay, that was quick.
Hopefully,
Should we have it, huh?
it should be coming, I don't anticipate anything after the first of the year now.
Okay.
Is that what you're just talking about, the
Insurance? Yes.
Yeah,
Any questions for our chief or deputy
We just
assistant chief?
submitted, they called for more information, we had it,
Oh.
and we submitted it, so.
I just have one shout out
Go
to
ahead.
Chief Skiba. Citizens Academy graduation was last month. I thought everybody did a great job. Officer Stanislavski does a great job. His son put together the PowerPoint, or the video for the group, and Pat was there through the whole time. And this continues to impress the heck out of me with the people that we reach, and are able to show them what each of the public service or safety divisions do in their community. And it continues to be a positive, and it be completed, and we're looking forward to continuing on. But good shout out.
Good shout out. Any other questions for either one of our chiefs?
The shelter, the winter shelter, did you get approval from the fire department?
The one
Did
center?
you get over at Divine Word
Which one's the
or?
The Old Legion?
No, the one was.
No, it's still Legion now. is what
Was
they
it?
It's
are,
the Old
aren't they?
Legion, is that the old underground, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because I know there was some concern about
They
having the one
went
downtown.
through the they went through it, and they talked to them about it. I think part of that had to do with the parade, did it not?
I don't know, I know the.
We
food-
can, before we speak, we'll make sure but I know they went through it, and I know
All
that
right.
they met.
I will move approval of the fire chief's report and the EMS report as
Second.
submitted. Seconded by Commissioner Ostrowski. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Chief, you've been very patient. We appreciate that. You're up. Chief Skiba.
I'm gonna leave.
Thank you.
Fine, go then.
I'm gonna second one.
To discuss just overall on the,
Go ahead, Chief.
sorry, long day. Regarding the monthly report, just so you're aware, in the, whether it's November or December, it's one of the general bullets talking about discussing with the county our records management system, evaluating current records, so it would be the third point under November's. We currently are using a TriTech records management system. It's based from the CAD system. The county's system that we went to, TriTech, has a new partner called Zucker. And the long and short of this conversation is it might be more user-friendly, better for pulling records, doing searches, collecting data, and being able to respond more effectively and efficiently. With that, it costs money. The lion's share would most likely come out of the sheriff's office, as it has most of the, whether it's paper service, corrections, and whatnot. But we're in the midst of looking at that. The last price I saw was right around $500,000 countywide, so you're talking about Clover, fire, city law enforcement, all of that. And again, right now it's at the base discussion with IT, does it meet our needs, and then how we go about funding our share of it, what our share looks like, and what archive data can be changed over. But to make you aware,
Just clarify, and I probably missed it. You're evaluating the system as this memo says, or you pretty much made a collective decision that if the funding is there, you'd like to move forward?
we are evaluating it.
Okay.
And I could say it mirrors some of what some of the fire chief's frustrations might be about ambulance service right now.
Okay.
So
Just
we're-
don't bring up CAD, okay?
So we are
This is
evaluating,
This is
Well,
all
License
part
that we bought might not ever be used.
and therein
Put that on the
lies,
list too.
therein lies one of the questions or concerns that we have to evaluate, because currently, the last piece of this system would be ambulance fire CAD, and that's been purchased, but if there's sub-company we switch to, we have to work with the county to find out whether or not the money's already spent would be what the county or the company picks up. So there's a lot of moving parts, and before we drive off the cliff, we're gonna ask some very pointed questions. But just to make you aware that myself and Chief Finn are in conversations with our IT, Jason and Ed, to ensure that as they're having meetings, they see what we need clearly. And the most visible one is CAD for the fire chief. Moving on with that, our community service officers back in March went to council, got permission to have kind of an on-call subgroup of community service officers to do night parking enforcement. As it is, we've just brought 2 more on that are going to be, again, very much filler, but what we have found is one of the greater needs is actually at our sporting events, where we have a lot of parking concerns up and around Gerke, things like that. And in working with Director Schrader, we've actually brought in some of our CSOs to do parking enforcement for an hour, hour and a half, and that is helping kind of control that congestion. And so we're looking at how we, again, can address it at a less expensive way, instead of having an officer that may or may not be available based on calls for service, but can still respond to the need of our community and other departments such as parks. So we are doing that, and as the city continues to look at some of its parking issues, meters and things like that, we are staying focused on how we can best provide the enforcement side of it, and monitoring and addressing those needs.
So with these 2 new ones, Chief, how many CSOs are there altogether now?
To include these, that would be 5 CSOs. We are operating, however, out of, if you will, a pool of 60 hours. 3 of them effectively have 20 hours each. The night person, however, is in school, so some of those hours go towards these other things, and I am seeking to find budgetary lines that I might be able to pilfer from as the year goes on.
Technical budget term?
Yeah, pilfer.
Much like we talked about creative fundraising for our Red Kettle Challenge coming up here on Saturday, excuse me, which is another plug for.
You're gonna
get the. No, I'll be there both days, remember,
Okay,
because I'm
sorry.
on the board for Salvation Army. Anyway, want to point to the special notes real quick. A shout out to UWSP Protective Services and the street department for helping out with the fire call that was on College, doing some traffic control. We had 4 officers working that night, and it was very much appreciated being able to take care of Division Street, protecting some of the fire department's equipment, and yet able to respond to other calls as needed. And then lastly, the recognition of Officer Bink and Sergeant Piotrowski for their long years of service in our community. And though for Sergeant Bink it only shows 21 years here, he had previously served in Colorado and in a subdivision in Madison. So again, I believe he is 62. So he has a long career in law enforcement and will be dearly missed for all of his work, as well as Sergeant Piotrowski. So
Is there a party plan?
we are honoring, we have a multitude of retirements. Some very much just want their shift, cup of coffee and donuts, and others would like more of a traditional reception. So we're trying to honor what their request
Whatever
is
they
for their
prefer.
career.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And then, how about party plan for
Once we
Davis?
get the official date,
Okay.
I'll inform you at the January PSC meeting.
Sensing the scene development here.
Yeah.
Ron. What else you have,
I was
Chief?
curious.
I
Go ahead.
apologize. The one last thing that I was going to point to actually is
Yeah.
United Way does a life report every 5 years
Yep.
regarding Portage County, and I will be chairing the public safety side and community involvement of that over this next year, so.
Pretty interesting.
Are there questions of our police chief on his report? Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Seconded by Commissioner Kirschman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you, Chief. Item number 6, approval of minutes. Commissioners, you have the minutes from November 1st in front of you. I have no
Move approval.
I'll second
more.
that.
Seconded by Commissioner Kirschman to approve as submitted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Number 7 are the bills. Robert, I've gone through them, but since you take the first look, I'll give the floor to you. And I didn't have anything that would jump out at me here. How about you?
I just had two things here, and that is one on the fire department bills. I think it's important to point out the instructor pay for $1,800. That is an item by contract. These 3 people get $600 a piece to actually train. This is in and outside of their regular pay.
Who are we training?
No, these are instructors within the fire department.
Right.
They have to teach, come up with the class and everything, the curriculum, and they have to teach, I believe, 40 hours a year within the fire department to collect their instructor's pay.
So they're teaching our
They're teaching our
firefighters.
guys.
Okay. Anyone else involved in the training?
Some of them are multi-agency trainings, and these guys are these instructors.
He knows where I'm going.
Yeah, let me just ask this, let's say they're training on their day off, did they get overtime too?
Yes, if they're teaching a class that our guys have to have, and they're the full instructor, like medics are going through ACLS right now. Jason Pettis is an ACLS instructor. We do pay him overtime on a day if he's off, yeah. And then he gets credited for hours taught, and then it was negotiating a contract to get a yearly stipend of $600. If they don't teach you the required amount of hours, they don't.
Right. No,
And
I'm
in the
just,
fire service, you have to maintain so many hours of teaching, or you lose your state instructors, and so they have to maintain that too.
All right, I have no other questions. Robert, did you have?
Then on the police department, I just wanted to make note that 10,000 seems a little bit high for the month for them. If you look at that, 40% of that is for new officer equipment or training, so you take that out of the factor, both chiefs can be commended on keeping the spending under control. And if you look at their budgets for the year, they are definitely no problem.
Oh, no, next month, this is year-end buying now,
Yeah.
it's Christmas time, you guys know that.
bargains galore out there.
Black Friday, hit the firehouse,
I
you
will
guys
move-
know
I
how
will
much
move
money
we
I got
keep-
to spend.
I will move, we keep a close eye on Finn next month.
Happy day.
It'll
All right.
mess with your budget.
Yeah, I know you will. All right, I'm gonna move approval of
much,
the bills
though.
from both
Not
police and fire.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Carlson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.